little over a decade ago, a group of union and political activists got together through a small union called Unite and decided we wanted to reorganise the fast food workers into unions and collective agreements. They hadn't had them for a very long time.
4 years ago, she started out on $8 an hour with a pay rise of 86 cents per hour each year. Now she's a training manager, earning $11.46 an hour. And even though that's more than the minimum wage, it still won't pay her bills.
I don't know how I've been doing it for the past few months, but it's not enough.
We knew this was going to be a big challenge for us. We knew the companies would resist because none of them would negotiate with us.
There's two roads we're going to go down. We can do a short, sharp campaign and settle up. And then the workers say, I thought we're going to get $12 and all you got is 75 cents, so I'm out of the union. Now the other option, and this has got risk as well, it will be a long campaign. Now it might go for a year, and every day is a fight. And it's a long trench warfare fight with guerrilla actions. Continuously, we're not signing up until we get it.
A lot of our members out there that are about to waver and pull out of the union, they've been waiting for so long for something to happen.
Individually, we needed to do the industry as a whole, take them all on and challenge and name and shame them as exploiters of young people in particular and workers more generally if we were going to be successful.
Don't let John intimidate you guys, you've got a right to strike.
Without getting fired.
So what we're trying to do is get Starbucks, KFC and Pizza Hut people to support each other, which they can legally do for the collective contract, because it's one big collective that we're arguing for. So John has lied to you and he's tried to bully you as well. So good on you, Sam, for coming out.
Yeah.
So this required a different type of strategy, an industrial strategy as well as a political strategy.
What we want to do is we want to have, next week we're going to have a Pizza Hut strike, because strikes are legal, right? You can't get in trouble for it, and don't worry about the boss. We handle the bosses.
We succeeded in organising about 4,000 fast food workers into the union, and we launched a campaign against all of the companies at the same time. SuperSizeMyPay.com. We dubbed the campaign SuperSizeMyPay.com.
When we went into contract negotiations, we were seeking what we called the Unite combo. The first one was an increase in the minimum wage, the adult minimum wage.
Workers at Starbucks coffee shops in Auckland have begun what may be a world first for the multinational: strike action. The staff want better wages and more regular hours.
One by one, other workers from around Auckland joined him.
What do we want? $12 an hour! When do we want it?
Now! Their union represents all fast food workers. It wants the government to fast-track a promised rise in the minimum wage from $9.50 an hour to $12.
McDonald's workers in Auckland have begun a series of short strikes which they're planning to stage during busy times of the day, lunch and dinner.
Te Aroha Rio hoped working at McDonald's would get her finances on track at uni and ready to kickstart her career. She earns $12.75 an hour. That's just 75 cents above the minimum wage.
We're able to increase it from 40 to 50% of the average wage.
The owners of KFC, Pizza Hut and Starbucks buckled under union pressure and signed a new deal.
Lower youth rates for 16 and 17-year-olds were also eliminated, and periodic breaks were introduced to workplaces.
McDonald's has just announced it is scrapping youth rates altogether.
Restaurant brands employ 5,000 workers, 500 of whom are aged under 18. They've presented a proposal to union members that'll see youth staff now paid 90% of the adult minimum wage.
To discuss this move is McDonald's New Zealand country manager, Mark Hawthorne, and long-time campaigner against youth rates, Matt McCartan from the Unite Union. Good morning to you both.
Well, they're still paying the minimum wage, of course, and so, we're going to have a discussion about that in March too.
Well, the relationship between you two has definitely improved a bit, hasn't it?
Oh, it's strong. I think it's always been strong. But I think it's important to note that McDonald's really haven't rolled over on this.
It was as much a political and community campaign as an industrial campaign. We had many strikes and pickets, of course, but we also had town hall meetings, concerts in the park, community groups coming out, church groups getting involved, and very widespread media and other support as well.
So renewing the collective agreements that we won with the companies every couple of years often required a lot of political campaigning and community activism and strike action as well. In particular at McDonald's in 2008 and in 2013, we had to have significant strike action on those companies to win better wages then. The police were very aggressive at our picket lines and trying to sort of put pressure on members who were wanting to take strike action.
Journalists, media, freedom of movement. I am. Get rid of my fingers. Move away. He's wrong. Freedom of movement, public footpath.
And we found out the police were actually getting discounts at McDonald's for the work they were doing. At first the police denied it was happening and then sort of got caught out in the media when we were able to sort of prove it, and that put them on the back foot.
Within a few years we had succeeded in securing union collective agreements at restaurant brands, which covers KFC, Pizza Hut, Starbucks, McDonald's, as well as Burger King and Wendy's. So all of the major fast food chains, we had secured union collective agreements. There were still some things we needed to sort out, but that was a major victory and somewhat unusual in the world at that time.
We were still seeking security around hours, and even though we made some inroads, guaranteed hours still didn't exist within the industry.
Michelle is on a 0 hours contract. What that means is that she's got a job and she's got an employment contract. But what good is the paper it's written on if it doesn't actually guarantee her any hours?
Just really not knowing if you have work the following week and how you're going to pay your bills and stuff like that. Yeah, that's was the main issue for us. So the lowest would have probably been like 15 hours a week, and the highest would have been probably around between 26 and 28 hours.
That's a huge variation, isn't it?
Yeah.
How did you cope with that?
Hard. It was really hard. Yeah. Having a family and trying to bring up kids, pay your rent. Yeah, trying to survive.
At the end of 2013, after we'd concluded that year's round of negotiations with all the fast food companies, but we told them we were coming back in 2015 and we wanted guaranteed hours in that year's negotiations, and we kept telling them every 3 months or so when we met them, remember, we want an end to this regime, we want an end to the system of rostering. And we also dubbed the contracts 0 hour contracts. So this was going to require a big fight, and we prepared for a big fight. We had a special conference of fast food delegates in early 2015. We did a survey of all our members and got the response we expected, which was an overwhelming endorsement of this being a priority. Then we launched the issue publicly by getting the workers to tell their stories.
I've seen my workers breaking down and crying, looking at their roster, going from a 30-hour week down to a 6 with 2 small children.
50-something hours one week, and the next week I think I had 16 hours.
They used to work like at 40 hours, but now they're getting only 1 or 2 shifts. Sometimes they're not putting any shift on the roster. It's like a nothing.
And the response was electric. The idea of 0 hour contracts really caught public imagination, and the media and politicians were all coming out and condemning these contracts.
Could you just wait? Just might be back and we might not. Now, we wouldn't treat you like that because we're really grateful to have you, but in a way, that's what life on a 0 hours contract can be like. You're there, you're ready, but what you've signed up for may not come. We may just bugger off like this and actually not talk to you at all.
0 hour contracts where workers are left without reliable regular shifts. Joining us this morning is the National Director of Unite Union, Mike Treen.
Under the 0 hour contracts, workers have to be available for work but have no guaranteed hours per week. And on top of that, they are tied to the company they have the contract with.
So that really kicked us along and gave a lot of confidence to our supporters to sort of come out. At first, the companies were still very resistant, like they were taking a big hit in the media, but they still didn't want to give up on the contracts. Their whole model was structured around 0 hour contracts and the way that they could use that against workers in the stores.
Even though, the companies tried to deny the reality, we had it in writing and we had the proof there that, these contracts were in use. So all we had to do was show the wording and people could see what was going on.
Yeah, it got to the point with all of them we were starting to plan strike action and protests, and we'd had some sort of protests and action in the major cities.
Then, at a very crucial time in the negotiations in March, one of the two main national television news shows called Campbell Live, which featured every weeknight at 7 p.m, decided to feature the issue of zero-hour contracts and our campaign against them. So hundreds of thousands of people were watching this in the weeks that we were negotiating, and they were reporting almost nightly on updates in the negotiation process, when we were going to be having strikes, and what the workers' stories were.
So this is the McDonald's Grey Lynn. It's very busy. I have to confess I've been here myself a couple of times, and we're going to ask their customers what they think of 0 hours.
I reckon they deserve to have guaranteed hours.
Bullshit.
I think they're absolutely disgusting. They're offensive and they shouldn't be there.
I'm a contracts manager for a building company in town, so I run 28 staff, and it's going to be very hard for people to live with.
Have you got a full-time job?
No, I don't. I'm a part-time student.
What are you studying?
Law.
Oh, good man! So you'll be an employment lawyer when you grow up. What a dick.
And that just sort of greased the wheels and made everything a lot easier. And people did take action. So we got to the companies and we started putting real pressure on these companies and saying that not only are our members outraged, but the entire country is outraged at what was happening. The companies tried to sort of hold out, and we started getting ready for strike action and trying to take that sort of community, sort of very vocal sort of stuff, started organising for protests, and the companies started to capitulate. So the first was BK, and they collapsed and promised to move to a full guaranteed hours system. Restaurant Brands, which is KFC, and a few other companies then came next, and they sort of settled right the day before we were going to be moving to strike action for them.
Recently, Burger King, KFC, Pizza Hut and Starbucks joined other outlets in scrapping the controversial practice. Unite Union says it's bewildered by McDonald's decision after welcoming a revised offer from the company.
The hardest one was McDonald's, so Macca's fought tooth and nail to hang on to the contracts and to hang on to it, and they tried all sorts of dodgy tricks. So they lied to us and they used sort of weird PR strategies to try and make it sound like they'd given up the contracts without changing anything at all.
The fact that you did make so much traction and progress and found a solution with Restaurant Brands, does that give you any hope that perhaps you can get there with McDonald's as well?
We will get there with McDonald's. We told them at the beginning of in fact we told them 2 years ago that this was going to be the critical issue for this year's negotiation. We will get there this year. The people of New Zealand will make them deal with us, I think, in a responsible way.
Yeah, well, we're certainly on side, Mike, so thanks for coming on to talk to us this morning. Best of luck for the next time you're around the table. Hopefully it goes better than yesterday.
We were able to overcome that, and after taking a few strike actions, we were able to do it, to really get them on the back foot.
There'll be no more protest action from McDonald's workers after the company decided to scrap its controversial zero-hour contracts. The fast food chain followed the likes of Burger King and Restaurant Brands in making the move, which will come into effect in July. Unite Union National Director Mike Treen says workers couldn't have done it without help from the public. So planned protest in downtown Auckland this afternoon will now become a celebration.
And we'd called a national day of action and national strike on May 1, but the night before, on April 30th, I got a call at about 11:30 at night to say that we'd finally settled a deal and that the strikes were off, and May 1 instead became a day of celebration, which was nice.
Unions are celebrating after National and Labor agreed to scrap zero-hour contracts. It comes as the employment bill is debated in Parliament. And it was a big win for the unions yesterday, but also a win for employers, because I think we're all agreed zero-hour contracts were diabolical. All right, so they are no more as a result of yesterday. It'll take a little while for this to come through. Do you imagine about a year?
Within a year's time, we'll see them pretty much eliminated in New Zealand.
So what now for Unite? I mean, are you going to disband the union now that you've had this big win for workers?
There's always lots of work to do.